Mark Twain said the two most important days of your life are the day you're born and the day you find out why. So we're here to talk about what's your why. I know it's daunting, but let's take Stephen Hawking as our example. This man was born, he couldn't speak, he was confined to a wheelchair, and yet he became one of our best known physicists studying the universe. He didn't use those challenges as an excuse. Maybe you like J.K. Rowling. She lived out of her car, was so poor she had no place to live, and wound up changing the literary world with Harry Potter series. Now it's movies and everything else. But still, maybe this guy is a little bit more in line with what you guys like to see. Patrick Mahomes is a real, true phenomenon. While he had a great high school career, a lot of colleges overlooked him. And because of that, he only got into Texas Tech, which wasn't known for their football. But even with that, he was ultimately selected for the draft, for the pros, and in 2018, he took the Chiefs to their first victory at the Super Bowl, and that had not been done for 50 years. But that's not all. In 2020, he brought the Chiefs back to the Super Bowl, and in 2022, he did it again convincingly and won again for the Chiefs. What a guy. Elon Musk is a little bit controversial, but I'm sure you've all heard of him. We love to hate him and hate to love him in Silicon Valley and all of the above. But he's a genius no matter what you think of him. However, he wasn't born with an easy life. He and his father didn't get along, so much so that he moved to Canada when he was 17. In fact, he ultimately wound up at the University of Pennsylvania to get his continuing education, and he was couch surfing because he had no place to live. Not exactly the Elon we think of today. Now, I can promise you that his struggles continue. Sometimes he creates them, but his struggles continue. But he does not quit. What do these guys all have in common? Passion. A commitment to what their purpose is. They want to fundamentally shift what is today to something different tomorrow. And they're committed. Now, do you have to be an Elon Musk or a J.K. Rowling or even a famous physicist? Well, on the record, I'm not saying you're not supposed to do that. But if your goals are smaller, that's okay too. I'd like to use my daughter Addison as an example. She decided she wanted to be a marine biologist at the ripe old age of 10 years old. And she is rocking those sunglasses with that green camp shirt on at SeaWorld. Every summer she went. She wanted to learn as much as she could about the ocean, and she was convinced that she was going to help save the coral reef. I'm happy to tell you she's now at the University of Hawaii at Manoa, studying marine biology. She's got a very rewarding internship using oysters to suck up some of the toxins in the ocean to help save the coral reef, and she's loving it. And I have no doubt that she will be a part of a big solution. So, understanding your why. It's kind of hard, right? I'm sure many of us have struggled with it. There are 3 things that you really need to do to understand your why. First is you have to be clear what it is, really tight. People understand you when you say it. The second is your purpose has to align with your values. When your purpose does not align with your values, it doesn't work. And finally, and probably most importantly, in this world of instant gratification, you have to be ready to embrace the journey. And that is sometimes the toughest of all, because it's not always ups and downs. And even today, after having my business for 28 years, I get my share of downs. So you don't just make it and suddenly things become awesome. Let's unpack these things just a little bit. First of all, I would recommend that you think about your intrinsic motivation, something that means something to you. So an example of an extrinsic motivation is money. Money is a good one. And I can tell you my personal story. I was in Silicon Valley in the dot-com bubble. Did anybody hear of this dot-com bubble? Well, first of all, we didn't know it was a bubble. We just thought we were all geniuses and everybody was smart and we were all making money. There were instant internet millionaires, and people were wrapping their personal heart with their company cars and their company logos, the best office furniture, the most lavish retreats. It was crazy. I mean, it was like flushing money down the drain. And I had started, at that time, Trainer Public Relations, our first slightly cheesy logo, but it's okay. I was 29 years old and I couldn't believe it. I just had a baby and I didn't want to make the commute through the Caldecott Tunnel was really wreaking havoc on me. And so I thought, yeah, why not? A lot of people invited me to help them with their companies. Now, let's just unpack that for a second. I'd had a baby, I had an infant, and I was pregnant again. And it was me working out of my house. Talk about resource constraints. They couldn't find anybody that wasn't pregnant that could continue their work. So, I mean, people were desperate for resources. Everything was growing very, very quickly. But then came the burst. We saw the stock market go crazy. People went from riches to rags. People lost their money. Investors lost their faith in the CEOs. And limited partners that give them the money became very, very concerned about giving them more money. And it was a while before the industry really recovered. The truth was, I thought my phone stopped ringing. I was like, isn't this thing on? And my clients were cutting back, if not completely going away. It was a very, very scary time. But it was all about the money. It was just instant money. There wasn't a real purpose or business model behind it. And that's the issue. All right. Another popular extrinsic motivator is fame. Who doesn't want to be famous? Come on. It's great. I mean, did you guys see the show with Oprah? Well, it was 2004. Many of you were probably just getting sea legs at that point, we'll say. But she was giving away cars, and literally that whole show, and you get a new car, and you get a new car, and you get a new car. Everybody was going crazy. It was awesome. Everybody was famous. They were on the show. Everybody loved it. But Oprah herself says, success is not about fame or money. It's about helping people. It's about doing something great. So let's go back to our friend Stephen Hawking. Let me tell you about the injustices of the world. This man, at very young age, I think I wrote it down here, 28 years old, made his first big discovery of the universe. 28. Confined in a wheelchair, had no speech ability, made this discovery. But did he get famous immediately? Nope. In fact, it wasn't until 88 that his book series came out for Popular Science that many of us heard about him, or should have heard about him if they were paying attention in class. And yet, still, he wasn't famous. He didn't get famous until they made The Big Bang Theory, the television show. Now, that must be really mind-blowing for somebody like a physicist that did all these amazing things to have to wait until somebody makes a sitcom about him so he can actually be known. It didn't deter him. He continued to work. I would suggest that something inside you that motivates you is a better goal. And so I asked my team, I said, I've got to do this speech for WSU. There's probably going to be a lot of students. What would you, they're closer in age. What do you think motivates you? And a couple of them told me winning. Winning really motivates. We like to win new deals. We like to get that big article in the Wall Street Journal. And another told me I'm really motivated by challenges, especially when the challenges continue to be different. I like to beat my own personal best. And then others said that they like to mentor others, and that was what they really loved to do. When someone asked Steve Jobs what motivated him, what was his purpose and his drive, he said, "As with all matters of the heart, you'll know it when you find it. You'll feel it." So that brings me to my son, Austin. Austin was a typical annoying teenage guy. Gamer, didn't really pay attention. I was worried he didn't think there was anything bigger than in this universe than him and his own needs. And so I had some connections, as moms often do, and I sent him to this camp. And it's a camp for kids with cancer. And he went there to be a counselor. And that camp changed his life. And at that camp, he realized he wanted to help those kids that had cancer. And he did it by studying emotional regulation in their development. He couldn't believe that facing a debilitating illness like cancer, they were so happy and could have so much fun. And he continued to devote his entire summer. He would work all year so he could go volunteer at that camp for the 2.5 months of summer. And that led him to his PhD, which he's just finishing his dissertation in at Penn State. So that was a pretty big thing, helping him. And he was 19 before he figured it out, which is fine. There's another layer, though, beyond finding your purpose. Let's say you know what you want to do. Now, the gut check is, does it align with what you believe in? What parts of it make you squeamish? What doesn't work for you? You'll feel, if you've figured out a purpose that doesn't align with what you need, you're going to feel it in your gut. There's a lack of motivation. You just can't quite get started. I call it the shoulds. Anybody want to gain or lose 10 pounds at the beginning of the year? I should go to the gym. I should eat right. I should patch up that relationship with my family. I should learn a new skill. I should this, I should that. If that's not working and it just feels bad to you every time you think about it, trust your gut. You don't have the right purpose. Sometimes it's a perfectly good purpose, but it's not what you want. Anybody see the show Titanic? So the star, Kate Winslet, was supposed to marry this very wealthy man. She was from a wealthy family. It was all arranged. Everything was perfect. They were good looking together. It was going to be great. Until they went on this voyage and she met Leonardo DiCaprio, a poor artist. She knew her purpose wasn't right. Maybe that's your story. Maybe you want to be, you come from a family of doctors, but you have an artist's heart. You have to recognize that. No one can give you your purpose. You have to decide what it is. If you find yourself with a purpose that doesn't align and you're feeling empty or stuck or disconnected or depressed, think about it again. It's not for you. I'll give you my son Tyler in this example. He got his degree in economics and political science and economics, and he was really thinking he wanted to go into political science. And he got a little ways into some internships and he realized that isn't for him. And he thought, oh gosh, I got this big degree from UC Riverside, wanted to go out and kill the world. Lucky for him, he wasn't afraid to pivot too far. He was, anybody know what death metal is? All right, he has a band, Eyes of Mara, and they cut a couple of CDs. I've actually been to a couple of what they call concerts. And he's the lead screamer. That is actually a title, by the way, for all of you over 50. So that is him, screaming his little lungs out. So proud. And no, I'm just kidding. I am very proud of him. But what he realized is he also did the marketing for the band. And he learned how to get social attention and digital attention. He learned how to do ads. And he figured out that he could apply that skill to something else that would give him a better feeling. So I'm pleased to say that he started my digital practice and really built it. He's been with me 7 years, and it's now 12% of our revenue. And I'm so proud of him. Sometimes people are not going to believe in your purpose. You're going to be very lonely. I give you Galileo. He decided that the earth was not flat and it revolved around the sun. This was starkly against what the Catholic Church taught. He was ostracized. Sometimes people aren't right. He stuck with his purpose. Turns out Galileo had it right to begin with. But especially in times like this, you need friends. So these women that I'm pictured in the top right-hand corner, these were women working in the 40s and 50s. They were sometimes ostracized from social groups. They weren't thought of well. Women weren't really made to work. They were supposed to stay home, have babies, and make a nice house. But there were a few of us that said, nah, that's not really for me. So the bottom right-hand corner is a group of my friends from Women's President's Organization. And remember that bubble in 2001 I talked about? Those are the ladies that helped get me through. They gave me processes. They gave me hope. They were my cheerleaders. They were my best friends. There we are celebrating at a party doing something crazy. But we all help each other. And you need a support group when you're defining and pursuing your purpose. The last point in the 3 key elements of defining your purpose is about the journey. This is so hard. We have instant gratification. If my coffee takes more than like 3 minutes to make in the brewer, I am just tapping my foot. What the heck? Everything's supposed to happen right now. Bandwidth streams, everything. We all want it now. But defining your purpose, you have to first accept the journey for what it is, including all the failures in it, and then embrace it and enjoy what you're doing. Remember to pat yourself on the back when you actually hit a milestone. So many of us forget that part. Do some journaling, write it down, review it. Hey, I made it. I did that. Yay. Have a party. The lack of clarity sometimes prevents us from continuing with the journey, because when you're unclear, you take a lot of missteps. You go a lot of weird directions. You can get yourself lost. You can be overwhelmed. I mean, you have to be really tight with your clarity on your purpose to not do that. And also there's a resistance to change. It's unfamiliar. We have muscle memory in what we do. And then you have to remember, oh wait, I have to do this other different thing. But remember, there are other people that have done this before you and have struggled the same way. Look at Thomas Edison. I've not failed. I just found 10,000 ways that don't work. And that's something. I'll give you my oldest daughter, Katie, as an example. She's kind of a badass. I'm allowed to say that, right, Dr. Jenin? Okay, thank you. She rides motorcycles. She actually rides a Harley now. And she's very competitive. She's my little mini-me. She's a tennis player. She did all these great things. Went to Loyola Marymount University, graduated, magna cum laude. And she was going to work at Paramount. She was going to work in the entertainment world. And by golly, she got an internship during COVID that no one else got. There was one in that entire company, and it was Katie. And she met Sandra Bullock when they came through with The Lost City. Sandra still hasn't called me. I'm not sure why. But anyway, she met Jim Carrey. She met so many famous people. But what she learned along the way is it wasn't challenging. To do public relations and communications for movie stars, she asked somebody, well, how'd you get all this press on this movie? And the lady looked at her and said, I emailed the press release. Everybody wants to talk to a movie star. And she realized right then and there that just wasn't enough, that brushing with fame would not fulfill her. So I'm happy to say that she had some very good internships at Tenfold, and she interviewed with some of the staff there, and we now have her on the team. She works in health tech, and she's very happy. But I have to say that not every time will people help you. And don't be disappointed when they don't. Just know that you can do it yourself. Sometimes I prefer it that way. All you have to do is remember to take that first step. Now, I'm motivated by my family. My husband, Jim, who I haven't talked about, is definitely living out his dream job. He manufactures and overhauls parts for the U.S. military, aircraft parts, and he's having the time of his life. He's refurbished several World War II airplanes, a T-6. He's helped with P-40s, P-51s, and now he has his own Corsair, which is a very rare bird. He loves it. It's what he does. He goes to work every day with a big smile on his face. And he is my biggest supporter. Tough day. He says, it's going to get better. I get these long text messages. Good day. He says, go baby. And that's what you need. You need somebody that is in your corner, providing emotional support. My team is very collaborative and supportive. Almost 50 people behind you. How can you lose? They're all smarter than me. It's awesome. And then sometimes the nonverbal friends like Flash. I'll go out for a ride with him and I'll forget everything. Or Dolly will entertain me. She's the one with the donut on her nose. And Willie will chill with me on the couch. And that is a huge part of my success. There's an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. Back to Steve Jobs. He didn't exactly take a direct route. I don't know how many of you know the man, but in computing history, he's a legend. He did so many things, and he's best known for his design, and he went all over the world finding the most sleek, most interesting design. And he really put together products that literally have a cult following. How many in here own an iPhone or an iWatch or anything Apple? Yeah, that's a pretty amazing set of hands. But let's not be clear. He got fired from Apple in 1976, very publicly. It was very humiliating. He was ousted. The board said, "You're out, dude." But he came back. He developed another company called Next. And finally, over 30 years later, he came back into Apple. And I love the humility in this statement. That firing freed him to do something more creative and helped him once again find his purpose. So once again, I asked my team, so tell me about ways that you failed and how they've helped you. And so one lady piped right up and she goes, I got laid off during COVID. First part of COVID, I was laid off. She said I was crushed. I thought I was doing so well. They told me I was great. And I said, oh, sorry, it's just a financial thing. And she said, I interviewed many, many places. And she said, it just didn't seem right. She said, I was afraid, but I didn't take any jobs offered because they just weren't the right one for me. And she said, and then I met Tenfold. And she said, that is so much better than where I was before. And another woman began talking about having shut her business down. She and her husband had an events business. They couldn't make it financially. Customers didn't pay on time. They didn't have the cash flow to support it. They loved doing events, but the stress of the business was just killing them. She came to work for Tenfold and she said, I get to live out my joy and someone else pays the tab. And so that's amazing. So listen, although I would say I have definitely found my purpose in life, I have had failure, many of them. I make mistakes every day. I am overwhelmed. I'm off track. I'm fearful. I can be disappointed. I sometimes feel defeated. I have hard lessons to learn. I have a little chatty mouth. Sometimes I have to lose that. And this misalignment with my values sometimes even feels a little strange. I'll get in a relationship, in a client relationship with the wrong person, and I can feel it's off. Occasionally, I'm even feeling isolated. I'm the only one with the idea. But mostly, it's been a wonderful journey. But I know there are more failures to come, more challenges ahead, and my job is definitely not done. So what drives me? Helping innovators change the world. In my case, they're in tech. They're deep tech innovators that want to make things better for you and for me. Tech is everywhere. I owe my family for the support, and I have the pleasure of working with two of my children, and that's an amazing experience. Keep in mind, not every idea I have is successful. Not every client becomes a billion-dollar baby. We hope they do. I've suffered personal loss. I kept going through stage 3B breast cancer and worked the entire time. I have had the loss of my parents. We've lost my husband's parents. There's been really tough financial times, but my business is healthier and better than it ever was before. Now, what I'd like to show you today is why I'm so passionate about this industry. This is one client that I got in touch with through a venture capitalist, and what they wanted to do was help patients find clinical trials when medication didn't work. Very specifically, well, that's interesting. She's gone away. So very specifically, the founder's sister had breast cancer, and she was a woman of Indian descent, and the regular drugs weren't working on her. And they were trying to figure out why. He would travel all over the country. He had a man of immense wealth. They would carry her medical files, saying, this didn't work, what could work, what could work. Time was running out. And I am going to be stubborn, which how would I be any other way, and show you this. It's going to take a minute, so.
It is a nightmare the very sick can find themselves in, communicating their health history from one doctor to the next.
No. Let me just go back there.
It is a nightmare the very sick can find themselves in, communicating their health history from one doctor to the next to get the critical care that they need. It's been an extra burden during this already difficult time. Now a Silicon Valley high-tech entrepreneur is trying to change that by fulfilling an important promise.
Let me show you this.
Entering the headquarters of Anil Sethi's Silicon Valley startup, a painting of a free-spirited woman is in the place where a corporate logo might otherwise loom large.
It also represents all of the folks that my folks are working to help.
Although the artist's depiction is just one person, Anil's little sister, Tanya.
Tanya was always more spirit than flesh.
But when she was 46 years old, doctors at the Johns Hopkins Medical Center gave her 2 weeks to live.
She always thought she could beat this. She tried a bunch of different kinds of therapies.
Anil joined Tanya on her journey to fight end-stage metastatic breast cancer.
Crisscrossing the U.S. for a Hail Mary.
He brought support and thought his knowledge of the healthcare system would be a plus.
I've been doing what I do now for a little over 3 decades, and what I do is electronic health records.
He took a leave from Apple, which had recently acquired his healthcare company.
While I was following her around during her treatment in that last year, she was seen at a ton of places, and that means she left a breadcrumb trail of her medical information behind her wherever she went, and it just is fragmented.
Did this mean that literally you had to haul around records from doctor to doctor?
Healthcare is still using a lot of fax and pagers, and this is the 21st century.
EKGs, you'd have to fax it. I mean, I can't even think of how many different scans I've had over the last 2.5 years. Everybody's on different systems.
Disparate medical record keeping in the 21st century was a gut punch Lynette McMahon didn't need either.
My diagnosis was confirmed. It was cholangiocarcinoma, which is bile duct cancer.
Chemotherapy had helped, but she wanted to be in a clinical trial matched to her and her disease, something Anil also wanted for his sister.
So I was sitting in her hospital room at Hopkins, and I'm furiously going through all the clinical trial websites that are out there, but I can't find anything. The organization isn't meant to be searched.
It's not for patients to find.
No.
Where can they go? How can they get some help?
Correct. So I printed out like 300 pages from ct.gov. And here I am in the industry, and I'm flipping through documents one by one, just trying to find out something about, is there anything that can save her?
If there was, he couldn't find it.
She was telling me, well, what are you going to do? And I said, what do you mean? She goes, after I die. And I said, well, I don't know. And she said, well, here's what you're not going to do. You're not going to retire, and you're not going to take a sabbatical, and you're not going to go to the beach. And I said, yes, ma'am. And I know that was the initial motivation for Tanya to push me to do this work.
Tanya's last wish, that her big brother use his experience to help everyday citizens cut through a bogged-down medical bureaucracy. He founded a company and named it Citizen.
We have produced a digital twin of her that lives up on the Citizen platform. And that is the target for trials, to look for her so she doesn't have to look for trials.
It's an online system for patients to upload and digitally house all of their medical records, no matter the doctor.
But now, with a click, they can see my entire history. And they can see it by provider, they can look at by test type.
Lynette was an early adapter with results.
I was getting ready to go back on chemo. And just at that time, Citizen sent me an email and said, by the way, we were looking over your data. Here's some clinical trials we think you'd be interested in. And then a week later, I started this immune therapy treatment. And it's because Citizen sent me that information.
Citizen is now in its third year, and Anil is fueled by an unrepeatable motto under the painting of his sister: to get back at cancer.
So those are the kinds of companies that we work with that I feel truly change the world. Oh, of course. But that's not all. I'm sure you all have heard of driverless cars, probably maybe even seen them, maybe ridden in them. I'm amazed at the innovation going on at WSU. You guys are right on top of it. Those labs, the robotics labs, the 3D printer labs, everybody was so gracious to show me all the things that are happening. School of Business, the international internships. How amazing. You're right there. You guys are right at the top of it. I see these things in Silicon Valley all the time. But remember, it's not actually about the transportation when it comes to driverless cars. They're collecting information. And if information is power, these guys are going to win. And everybody's paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to help them. Drones. I saw some great drones at WSU. You guys are using it already. I have a company, Drone Deploy, that I worked with that could sense heat, human heat in rubble after a catastrophic event. Also, the farmers could use the drone they attached high-profile, very good cameras to them and had them take pictures of the leaves on the crops to make sure they were getting the right amount of water. Saved a lot of people, saved a lot of energy, and all could be done by drones. I will also tell you that AR/VR is a big thing. If you guys are into gaming, of course, it's taking over the world. But once again, there's a phenomenal lab right here on campus that can probably show you more than I could even tell you. And my client LibraStream actually uses technology that someone can sit in Wichita, Kansas, and help them figure out something in the Saudi desert. They don't have to speak the same language. Their technology translates real time. The guy that's in the field wears a headset. The guy that's in the offices has manuals and other things. They can both see what each other is looking at, and they can talk real time and fix things. We're saving millions of dollars, and we're saving valuable time. It's amazing. I know because there's so many in here with Apple phones, you guys know what 5G is, but that's changing a lot too. Do you remember when they used to change the phone lines and the cables were in the streets and they'd have to dig them up? My brother was a telephone man, and you'd get so frustrated. Traffic would snarl. And so every time somebody changed what they wanted to do with their network, they had to go dig up the cables and put some new stuff in. Now this can be done with a couple of lines of software code because of companies like my client EdgeQ. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention another big favorite, which is OpenAI. I'm not an artist. Not at all. I wish I was. I love art. But I'm not. I don't have to be now. There's a program called DALL-E 2 that helps me draw. This is my horse and I flash. Well, that's how I wish I looked that is a picture of what I wanted to recreate. It took me less than 2 minutes. I had to change my sentence 3 times to get the horse mane and tail the right color and to get everything exactly the way I wanted it. Here's the picture I was thinking of when I had Dolly create that. Less than 2 minutes. Pretty amazing. Now, who in here has used ChatGPT? Yeah. You guys all know about Dan? Do anything now? There's even cheat codes for ChatGPT. I had no idea. My son had to tell me. Anyway, for those of you that haven't used ChatGPT, I'm going to take us off course here just another second and show you what you can do. So I'm not a programmer, but let's just say I wanted to start a website and I was going to sell this pretty red shirt this nice lady has on. So I'm going to sell that pretty red shirt, and I'm going to need a create. How do I create a shopping cart using Java for my website? And in just seconds, it's telling me how I do that, exactly how I do it, real time. And it will actually also provide the exact code that I can copy and put into an application. Here you go. And there's a convenient copy code right here. I don't know how to program. I promise you I didn't fix that. I've got a liberal arts background, people. So this is amazing. This changes the paradigm. Am I worried? ChatGPT can write blogs. Heck, I used it to write the speech. But it can't do original content. It doesn't know how to be me. It doesn't know how to be you. It's always going to rely on original content. And so while it can help us on our way to our purpose, it's not going to take over. This is a good thing. Embrace it. Use it for your purpose. In just 20 minutes, my team came up with 20 some odd uses for ChatGPT that would save us time and effort and energy. It's phenomenal. Now, we've talked about a lot. Finding your purpose, aligning it with your values, embracing your journey. And it's hard. But that's what it takes to be truly great. I love Michael Jordan. He's like an all-time great. And I especially love this quote because the journey piece is real, people. He's missed 9,000 shots. He's lost almost 300 games. And 26 times they were counting on him. All he had to do was put that little ball in that big hoop. And he missed it and lost the game. Ugh, crushing, right? But those failures made a success of him. And they will make a success of you. And, I know some of you are thinking, I'm too old for that, Susan. No, you're not. Colonel Sanders started Kentucky Fried Chicken in his 60s, 65. You got time. There's plenty of time. Also, Frank Lloyd Wright had just over a third of his best work was done in his 70s. You're not done, people. So I want to have you think about this. My purpose is to help the nerds, okay? And help them change your world for the better. That might not be for you. That's okay. Think of how these technologies might help you get to where you need to go. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. And that's Winston Churchill. So I ask you, what's your purpose? Ready, set, go get it. Thank you. Jen, how are we doing on time? I didn't see any frantic waving.
No, we can open up for a few questions. So if you have any questions, please raise your hand, and when a microphone reaches you, you may ask your question. Any questions for Susan?
Do you really, oh, is it on? It is. It's fine. Did you really use ChatGPT to write your speech today?
I did not, well, obviously does know me that well, right? My documented life is not that important. So, no, yes, I did. I used it to look at some of the key points. I ask it, what do experts consider key to motivating and finding your purpose? And it gave me a lot of ideas. Some I liked, some I didn't. I used what was authentically me. It's a tool for me. It's not something to use to turn in your assignments. No, no, no. Yes.
In college versus Susan, thank you again for your presentation. Wanted to hear about your purpose as a 20-some-year-old in college, as many of these students are here in the room, versus the purpose that you have today and the motivating factor being your family. Can you talk about that evolution of your purpose?
Yeah, I think all of us kind of start out a bit extrinsic. I saw Newton in my rearview mirror, and now I'm so happy to be back. And I wanted to do something cool. I wanted to wear suits and high heels and have a cool briefcase. That's what I knew for sure. It was not going to be a field job. But I knew I wanted to do something big. I wanted to be trusted. I wanted to be out there, but I don't think I could know exactly. I didn't have much exposure to technology. Just growing up, there just wasn't, we didn't have computers in our classrooms or anything like that. So tech was pretty far afield for me. So it does come to you after a while. I think it was after I was so inspired by what people were doing that I got really excited. So it took a while. I'm a late bloomer. I'm blooming.